In this video, we'll be integrating from -1 to 0 of 1 over the square root of the absolute value of x. First, let's look at the absolute value of x. The absolute value of x is equal to -x for x being less than 0, and it's equal to x for x being greater than or equal to 0. So let's look at what this actually means. Let's look at an example. If x is -5, the absolute value of -5 is going to equal, well, let's see, x here is negative, so we have to look at this case right here when x is negative. So we do -x, so we do negative, and then x we set as -5. Okay, so that's going to equal +5. If x is positive, then you could just remove the absolute value. Okay, so if we have x equals 5, the absolute value of 5 is just 5. Now, in our integral, we're evaluating from -1 to 0. The x values are from -1 to 0, which means they have to be negative. And so absolute value of x has to equal -x. So I can replace the absolute value of x with -x. Now looking at this square root of -x does not look very comfortable. So if you prefer, you can do a u substitution. You can let u equal -x, so then du is equal to -dx. Okay, so I'm going to replace -x with u. Dx then is -du, so I'll just factor out the negative outside. And notice that the limit here is larger on the bottom than the top. So one thing to note as one property, let's say, is that when you flip the limits, you have to put a negative outside. So here if we flip b and a, you put a negative outside. So here we're going to change the limit, so we're going to put 0 in the bottom and 1 at the top, and so this negative is going to cancel out with another negative. That leaves us with the integral from 0 to 1 of 1 over the square root of u du. Now the problem with this is I cannot plug in 0 for u, okay, because I'll be dividing by 0. So technically you need to do or use a limit for that. So we'll do that in a second, but first let's rewrite 1 over square root of u as u to the -1/2 power. Integrate, so u to the -1/2 is u to the 1/2 times 2. But now we need to find a limit as a approaches 0 from the right. So we're going to replace the 0 here with a, and a has to approach 0 from the right. Well, why is that? Well, we're looking from 0 to 1. We know 0 is not part of the domain, right? You can't divide by 0. So if you're going to approach 0, you cannot approach it from the left. There's nothing over here. You're approaching it from the right because that's the interval that you're interested in between 0 and 1. So you must approach it from the right. And that's why I have 0 from the right. And here you could just plug in 1. So you would have 1 to the 1/2 power is just 1 minus 2a to the 1/2 power. A approaching 0 from the right, well, we know that a to the 1/2 is just a square root of a. So as you're approaching 0 from the right, obviously the y value is 0. Okay, so this thing right here is 0. So you're just left with 2 as your answer.